Welcome to Transforming Lives with Dr. Liya. Dr. Liya Mutale is an author, Bible-believing ordained minister of the gospel, entrepreneur, life coach, medical doctor, mentor, mother, strategy policy analyst, and visionary leader. In this podcast, she discusses her book, Transform to Transform Zambia. Episode 4, Chapter 3, Taking Responsibility.
In order to start the journey of transformation, there is need to deal with the issue of finger pointing and blame shifting. Don't you get tired of blaming other people for everything that goes wrong in your life? You are really where you are today because of the decisions you made yesterday. So if you are where you are because of your own decisions, then I guess you can change where you are by changing the way you make decisions, isn't it? Take responsibility for your life. A human life is a series of choices. Happiness, love, peace, joy, success is a choice. Misery is also a choice. We can change our choices to eventually change our lives. Most of us want to blame it on our past. Use your past to learn from and let it remain in the past. Deal with all the pain that comes with the past as you take an audit of your past and seek to make amends with any people you could have hurt in your past. Call your brother, your mother, your sister, or an old forgotten friend. Do that and just be brave enough to say, I'm sorry. These words won't cost you anything to say, but they will bring a peace only they can give. This process takes boldness, humility, and integrity. Taking responsibility goes beyond just actions. It includes taking responsibility of our thoughts as well. Before any action is taken, it usually starts as a thought. Your life is determined by what you think of the most. The Bible tells us that as a man thinks, so is he. The mind can produce anything the mind can conceive and believe. Dr. Cindy Trim once said, your feet cannot take you where your mind has not been. Life should be lived with a positive attitude. See the bottle half full and not half empty. Say to yourself out loud, I, put your name there, will take responsibility for everything I do or think from this day forward. Taking responsibility also applies to us being responsible for our country as a people. My prayer for you now is that as you begin to take responsibility for your life, you will also take responsibility for your beautiful country, Zambia. We need to fall in love with our country and be possessive about it. Why should we tolerate seeing our country being destroyed by people who are not Zambian? Get concerned and get involved. If you have to join politics to make a change, then do so. Why do we have so many armchair critics who just know how to find fault in those who are brave enough to join the front line? If you think you know better, get in the ring and fight with those who are fighting. If you are a Christian, the least you can do is fight on your knees in prayer.
This is Transforming Lives with Dr. Liya.
Good evening, Mom.
Good evening.
Always a pleasure to have these deep conversations.
A pleasure for me too.
Today, we've just been listening to chapter 3 of Transform to Transform Zambia. But you insist that this message is not just about Zambia or Zambians only. It's about people in Southern Africa. It's about people in Africa. It's about people everywhere.
Yes.
Because the message of transformation is a message from God to every human being.
Yes. Every human being must at some point transform. It's important to guard what we think, because really it's mostly coming from our thoughts. So transformation really starts from the inside. So we have to deal with our inner man first. And it's for everybody. I mean, if every country wants to live in harmony and peace, then the people themselves must be at peace.
That's right.
So that's why the message is really not, though the book was, the instruction from God was to say, write this book for the Zambians, but obviously the message applies to the rest of the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The chapter we're looking at today or tonight is really chapter 3 of this book. And I love the title, Taking Responsibility. First and foremost, the first place to start, and that's how you start this book, the first place you start with dealing with the issue of taking responsibility is by refusing or eliminating the behavior that most of us have of pointing fingers at other people, the past, our parents, maybe our pastor. We blame everybody except ourselves.
Yeah, that's always the case. You always want to find someone else to blame. But if you look carefully, if I point a finger at you, one finger is pointing at you, and how many are pointing at me?
3 are pointing
at me. So I'm to blame. So I think in most situations, it's important for us to first of all ask ourselves, what role did I play? Because it takes two to tango.
That's right.
So if anything went wrong, what was my role? What did I do wrong? Or what do I need to correct? It also applies to situations like marriage. We are quick to complain about our partners.
That's true.
We don't look at ourselves. So it's important to look at yourself first.
That's true.
Before you can start. I mean, the Bible also tells us that you can't take a speck out of your friend's eye when you have a log in yours. So it's important to introspect. Who am I? Why am I doing? Why did that go wrong? What did I do wrong? And correct that. If it's an apology I need to make, I make it, so that I have inner peace.
That's so profound. In the book, you talk about the fact that we need to be aware that the way we are today is as a result of the decisions that we made yesterday.
In fact, life is a decision every minute.
Yes.
I decide to sit. I decide to sleep.
Yes.
I decide to eat. I can decide to be bad. I can decide to be good. So every step of life is a decision. So if this day I decide to just sleep and not do anything, and then tomorrow I'm fired. So the decision I made yesterday had consequences the next day. So that's why we need to be careful about the decisions we make.
That's true.
And the other important thing about decisions is you need to make them. You see, again, avoiding to make decisions is again the wrong thing. That then stagnates you. But then if you have to make a decision, make it. Sometimes it may be a wrong decision, but you will learn from it. Then you will know that, oh, that was wrong. Next time I won't do it like that.
Because life is a succession of decisions.
Exactly.
Fantastic. But I want us to dwell a little more on the issue of making decisions and how we build, because that's the first place of taking responsibility. How we build our lives based on the decisions that we make on a daily basis.
I think the best place is to start by looking back at where you're coming from, to make an assessment. If you know what a SWOT analysis is, then do one. What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? What opportunities do I have? What are the threats? You put them down. It's as easy as that. Write it down somewhere. And then ask yourself, each time I've fallen, each time I've failed, what went wrong? What did I do? And then you can see which one is the common denominator. If I had several relationships and all these went wrong, I'm the common denominator, isn't it?
That's right.
So it means then there's something about me. So I go back to me and I dig into me.
There's no way everyone is wrong and you're right.
Exactly. So I have to sit down and introspect and think and meditate and ask myself, what is it? Where did I go wrong? So, the past is the past, but it's important to also analyze the past because we have made mistakes. And sometimes these mistakes repeat themselves. And they only repeat themselves because God is trying to teach you a lesson. And because you failed that lesson, it's like school. If you fail, you repeat. So you find you keep falling into this thing. But if you look back and you study it, you realize that, oh, okay, I didn't do this. That's why it keeps going on like this. So introspection is very important.
This is Transforming Lives with Dr. Liya. We'll be right back. Info at transformwithdrliya.com. Welcome back.
So let's talk about relationships, because you've talked about marriage and relationships. When marriage is not functional, a relationship is not functional, maybe a relationship between friends, any type of relationship between a pastor and the flock, when things are not happening, people are hurt, there are feelings and there's confusion there. And then one person begins to feel that the other person must take responsibility. You must say sorry. You did me wrong. I want us to talk about that kind of a relationship. You know, usually you find that we blame others, we don't take our responsibility, and then the relationships never get to be healed.
Yeah, I think relationships are very, very sensitive. We also need to realize that God brings people into our lives for a reason and for a season. Some for longer periods and some for shorter periods. Maybe there's something you needed to do with this person and you do it and it's gone and it's past. But then again, in this relationship, there should be some level of integrity, some level of trust. If you're my friend, I should trust you. And I do trust you with certain information, for instance. And you break that trust. Trust is earned. It's not something that you just come and trust me. No. You have to earn it. I have to see that, oh, I told him this, and oh, he hasn't told anybody else. Or this happened, or he took this and he said he would bring it back. He did. So eventually, you build trust. Yes, it's being earned. But then again, there are issues of hurting one another. Okay, there are people who keep those things. They won't tell you, even when they feel injured by whatever you're doing. So they keep quiet and they bottle it. And then one day they explode. Okay? But then there are those people who are like me. I would rather tell it to you and it's past. So I have nothing to keep. I go to sleep in peace. And I think that's the best way to deal with it. When there's a problem in a relationship, talk about it. That's why the Bible tells us, don't go to sleep quarreling. Make sure that you make peace with one another. Because these days you never know. When I say goodbye in the morning, I don't know if I'll see you in the evening. Anything can happen.
Life has become so
yes.
fragile.
If you have something troubling, just talk about it. I know that sometimes these relationships where you feel, I can't say this to him. If I do, I'll hurt him or I'll hurt her. You're better off hurting the person than keeping quiet, because you're not doing a favor to that person. If you're doing something wrong, I should come and say, no, Brian, I think that one, please leave it. Yes. But if I don't, then I'm not your friend. Then I'm watching you go into the pit, and I'm not saying anything. So there should be that level of trust, honesty, integrity, to be able to hold a friendship.
For instance, in a marriage situation where people are hating each other, it's behavior, attitudes, and all kinds of things that happen in marriage. But one person probably, hopefully not both, but one person feels like they can't apologize, because the other person has done me wrong. So they are the ones who should apologize. Doesn't that just disintegrate the marriage?
Yeah, because unforgiveness hurts you. It doesn't hurt the other person. It hurts you. You are carrying this thing and you are hurting. The other person is living their life. They don't even care. They don't even know. So you're better off forgiving and letting it go. Because remember, unforgiveness is a negative emotion. So if you're running around with unforgiveness, then most of what you do the heavens are probably not hearing because you have this negative
That's right.
emotion around you.
Isn't it true that it's because of those feelings of hurt that we have, between siblings, between children and parents, in marriage, in church, in business, that many people are stagnant, stuck in the same place, not making progress because they're holding a grudge.
Yeah.
And the people that hurt them, who they say they hurt them,
are moving
they've moved
on.
on.
Yes.
So
when you hold unforgiveness, it's like you've put
an anchor.
An anchor, yeah. It's like you're carrying an anchor. So you walk, you can only reach this far. It pulls you back. That's what unforgiveness does. So to let go of that, you have to just let go. Just give it back to God. And forgive that person. If you can tell them, go and tell them. But even if you can't, say it out loud. Say it in prayer, say it out loud. Sometimes the people are dead. The people want to forgive. Just say, Lord, I've forgiven that person.
Don't we give power to other people when we don't forgive them?
Yes,
we
you
give
do.
them power.
You give them power, yes. Because that misery that you are feeling, you're giving them power. Like you said, you remain stagnant and he's moving on. So you've given that person power to go on.
Yeah.
While you are gloomy somewhere in a corner.
So in the book you talk about starting with a thought pattern.
Taking responsibility also involves taking responsibility of our thoughts. It's very easy to drift into negative thoughts. It's very easy. In fact, it's the easier one. So controlling your thoughts is not easy because of the things that we see, the things we hear, the things we feel disturbs our thoughts. But it's important for us to remain positive, to have positive thoughts, good thoughts. I shouldn't think bad things about you. I shouldn't think bad things about my children. I remember driving, many years ago, driving from home to work, and I was thinking about our oldest son. And I was, thinking these good thoughts about him. At that time, he wasn't at the place that I would have wanted him to be. So instead of getting angry and thinking negatively, I began to think good things about him. And I was thinking, oh my God, he's going to make it. He's going to be this. And God just said to me, that's what I call prayer. Just good thoughts about another person. So it's important for us to have good thoughts. Because at the end of the day, our actions are determined by what we think. As a man thinketh, so is he.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're changing our thoughts, and when we move from negative thoughts to positive thoughts, we create a positive. We're taking responsibility, and we're positioning ourselves in a positive space, so we can move forward, isn't it? When you're thinking negatively, it's easy. Just following up, it's so easy. Negative thoughts, you don't even invite them. They just grow naturally. It's like weeds. They just grow naturally. It's this. You don't need effort to grow negative thoughts. So negative thoughts are like a heavy burden. So when you have negative thoughts, it just rolls you back to the bottom of the mountain. Positive thoughts, on the other hand, require effort. The same effort you require to move your life from the bottom of the hill to the top. So you need to put in effort. And it doesn't happen by just wishful thinking. You have to do something. Applying yourself. So probably reading books like this.
Reading books, having the right relationships. Who speaks life into your life. Don't associate with people who speak death, who always speak negative. All they see is black. They don't see white anywhere. You see, it's very, very difficult to change your thoughts. So what do? You substitute your thoughts. So you put a good thought over the bad thought, and the thought goes away. If you want to take darkness away, what do? You bring light.
That's right.
So the positive thought comes and brings in light. And the bad one moves off.
The positive thought is a light.
It's the light.
The negative thought is the darkness. But the moment the positive thought comes in, darkness disappears.
But it's hard.
It is not
It's a deliberate effort.
It's something you have to have.
We'll be right back. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Welcome back.
There's a thought someone planted in my mind when I was probably 17 years old. Pastor's wife comes into our home, and I'm sitting there with my mom. She comes in and then she says, I see darkness in you, it's black where you are, it's dark where you're going. And she said, and those thoughts, they stayed with me for so many years, and my mom would refer to it and say, you need to pray. But then one day it clicked in my head. I said, those were her thoughts. They were not my thoughts. And I told myself, yes, she saw darkness because I have not been called to talk to people who are in the light. I've been called to talk to people in the dark. I said, it's okay. So I know who I am. I'm going to the dark world. I am the light in the dark space. So really, negative thoughts that people plant, they can stay with you for a long time. So what do you say about people like that who've been taught something negative, and they were young? I was 17 and my brain was still very tender, and negative things are put. Sometimes they tell you you're ugly, you're dumb, you're stupid.
You amount to nothing.
Yes. How do they deal with those things?
Those things, I think, have happened to a lot of us, especially growing up in Africa, where parents, parenting, you don't learn parenting. It just comes. But then we've had a lot of parents who've spoken down on the children and said negatively. Teachers as well can say that and do it. But then I think as you grow up and discover who you are, you overcome that. Because it's so important. What you say to yourself is the most important thing. What others say, that's their business. If that was her opinion, that was her opinion. But what does Brian say about himself? So what does this man, is the man in the mirror saying to themselves? So if I get up and say I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm beautiful, then I am. I don't care what you think. You see? That's how you have to live life. Because you see, if you live life according to people, my dear, you will not reach far.
It's true.
Because everyone has an opinion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This one has a positive one, the other one has a negative one. So how are you going to live?
Let's talk to parents and teachers, because you refer to parents and teachers and elder brothers and senior
siblings,
people. Siblings, older brothers, older sisters. Why is it so important for them to mind what they say to younger people? Because those young people have got tender brains, tender, lives that if you speak negative words, they'll stick in there.
Yeah, because it's a seed. You are planting a negative seed into that child. So you have to speak positive. Even when the child is doing wrong, you continue to speak positive. It's not easy, but it can be done. Even husbands. When we got married, you know how you get married to somebody, this person has his own life, he came from somewhere else, you're also a stranger from another place, and finally you find each other together, and then you see certain things that you think are not good. As usual, you're looking at him, you're not looking at yourself, But then God taught me something that seemed very easy, but worked. He just said to me, you know what? Pray for him in his hearing. So I'm like, what do you mean? He said, kneel down in his presence and pray loudly. Wow. So I would kneel down and say, Father, I thank you. I thank you for this great, powerful man. I thank you for a responsible father. I thank you. I was just confessing what the man I was making. And, he would sit there and look at me. And I believe each time he drove to work or whatever, he was, is that what she thinks about me? And eventually, he became.
Yes.
So, it's important that you speak out what you want to see, not what you are seeing. Because if you're going to talk to a child negatively because of what you are seeing them do, they remain in that. But if you, even if it's like, this one is going to be a general, this one will be a doctor, you, the way I'm seeing you are reaching very far. Even when there is, it's the same in marriage. You see, you men, our job, as far as I'm concerned, is to bring the greatness out of you. But how do I do that? So I have to speak positive.
Yes.
If you tell me you're going to build a plane, even when I know you can't, I have to say, well, you can. Definitely. Is there anything you can afford to do? You can do it. You know what I mean? And the man gets up, because you see, I, the woman, is your mirror. What I say about you is so strong. If I say anything negative, you will carry it. So we should be very careful what we say. Words are important.
You can't believe this. We've come to the end of this episode. But that's taking responsibility, because we're not just talking about taking responsibility of your own thoughts, but we're also being responsible for the thoughts we are planting in others.
Yes.
We're changing that.
The thing we haven't spoken about, actually, we should speak about a little bit, is taking responsibility of our country.
Yes.
You see, this country, we have to take responsibility. Yeah. When there is something wrong, we get involved. Wherever you can get involved, get involved.
That's right.
Don't be like an armchair critic. And all you know is to criticize. Look at that one. Look, get in and fight with those who are fighting. So that you solve the problem. God gave us gifts. All of us have gifts. So use your gift to correct that thing instead of sitting there and criticizing. So do something. Take responsibility. This is our country. And this is all we have. So taking responsibility it encompasses the whole you. That's right. And the environment that you are in. Yeah. So if we could live our lives like that in every area, I believe that transformation would be happening.
That's true. Taking responsibility is a mark of maturity, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's something we should teach our children from childhood. When they come, they throw their toys around. No. When you are done with your playing, pack your toys and put them there.
That's right.
That's responsibility.
Wow, fantastic. And just as we always end, till the next episode.
Till the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
www.transformwithdrliya.com